All right, good morning, everyone. Join me, if you will, in the spirit of love. I live in the spirit of love. I live in the spirit of love. I live in the spirit of love, because love lives in me. I move in the spirit of love. I move in the spirit of love. I move in the spirit of love, because love moves in me. I reach out in the spirit of love. I reach out in the spirit of love. I reach out in the spirit of love, because love reaches out through me. I heal in the spirit of love. I heal in the spirit of love. I heal in the spirit of love, because love heals through me. We're free in the spirit of love. We're free in the spirit of love. We're free in the spirit of love, because love sets us free. Because love sets us free. Yeah, because love sets us free. Come to the well, the water of life. That's what we read about this morning in Living the Science of Mind. And I want to pull that apart a little bit, because I love this reading. And we're talking about the flow. We're talking about the flow of life. There are so many metaphors. There's so many similes. We know that, we are made, humans are made of mostly water. The planet is made of mostly water. There's something to be said in that. We know that the Dr. Emoto, who did the experiments numbers of years ago, speaking to water, doing experiments with light and sound and all these things, and based on the energy and the resonance and frequency of which he spoke to water, different formations of crystals would form. If it was negative, it would be cloudy and it would be distorted. If it were pure, if they played pure musical tones, these amazing patterns, these fractals would show up based on a frequency. So there's certainly something to that. So yes, there is a river of life, clear as crystal, flowing through the body of humanity, uniting every part in the one great being, in the Christ. And I say the Christ and the Christ consciousness. And Jesus spoke of the well of water, which we could drink, which you would never thirst again if you got this knowledge, of course. If you got this understanding of the flow of life, you would never lack for anything. You would never know lack. You would never go there in consciousness. So we have this. It's impossible to think of spirit as being anything solid. We talk about the energy around us, and we tend to think that the chair that we're sitting on today, the keyboard that I'm playing, the desk that we're at, the book that's in my hand, the headphones or whatever, the technology, we think that things are solid. And what we know, of course, now is that is not the case. That physics has proven that when something appears to be solid, even immovable, there is still activity happening within the molecules and the atoms and the bits, the tiniest bits of energy. They're just slowed down or compressed in ways that to us appear as not moving. Even rocks we think of as not doing anything but sitting on the ground being a rock. But we know now that that's not true. We know that everything is made of energy. We know that thought is made of energy. And so we talk about this. It appears that we have the ability, at least temporarily, to pollute the stream of life with a consciousness of hate, despair, or any negative thought which denies its purity. But of course, we don't have the power. We don't really have the power to destroy, only to mold and remold. And we know this as well. We know that there is that truism that says energy cannot be created or destroyed. It can only change form. And we are doing that day in and day out, whether we realize it or not. We're doing it with our thoughts. We're doing it with our emotions. We're doing it with our words. And when we get them lined up in these beautiful places of understanding, there is something, the only thing that is immovable is God, because God is everywhere present. We don't force God to do anything. We don't push the river, as it were. That's my saying when I find that I am trying to force things to happen instead of allowing them to happen, allowing them in their own time. When I'm trying, well, let's break it down even further into the human element. Is when I'm trying to control things that are not within my control, that's where we run into problems. That's where I run into problems. I don't know about you, but I have discovered that there aren't a whole lot of things that I have any control over except my thoughts, my emotions, and my words. Michael Beckwith says, he says this thing, we don't pray to make things happen. We pray to make God welcome. And so in our discussion of flow and energy, we have these resistances in our lives. And our resistances are our fears, our unwillingness to see things differently, our attachment to how things should be or how we think they should be, our unforgiveness of other people, unforgiveness of ourselves. And if you're looking at Living in the Science of Mind at the back, there is a beautiful, another reading about the forgiveness of the divine forgivingness. If you're interested at all, it's on page 396. It's a few pages long and it's wonderful. And essentially what it is it's unsticking things. It is opening up the channel. It is doing away with resistance. We know that the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. And when we are aligned with spirit, when we are aligned with, in our thoughts, in our emotions, in our words, particularly, things do flow very, very well. So how do we get there? How do we get there? When it talks about, it is fortunate that it is indeed true that we have a temporary way of polluting the stream. For in spite of all our misdirection, we are being carried forward on the bosom of the infinite stream to a harbor of perfect safety. That is knowing that we are always safe in the arms of God. We are always being led. We are always being guided and guarded and prospered and provided for. We just don't always know it, or we forget. I forget sometimes. But we have this beautiful thing in our lives called this faculty of emotions, that when we feel fear, when we begin to be able to identify it, where it is in our body in particular, again, it's an energy source. It moves us in different ways. When we are joyful, there is a physical sense of expansion, that our breathing is calm and deep, that our bodies are relaxed, our hearts are open, and our heart rate is good and steady. And our instincts, when we do go into fear, we know that different feeling. In me, my gut tightens, my head, it's like everything above my neck gets cut off. I can't think, I can't see, I can't hear when I am in abject fear. I feel it in my gut. My heart rate goes up. Our pupils dilate when we're in fear. All of that is built into our animal parts, our survival mode stuff, but it is maladaptive. We have become so inundated with so much information designed to keep us in fear. I don't know if you've noticed that or not. If you noticed it at all during the last election cycle, during the last however many decades of election cycles, where we know through the course of history, fear has been a powerful motivator, and not necessarily, well, not ever, in my opinion, in the right direction. It keeps us on our toes, but it doesn't allow us to think straight. It doesn't allow us access to the infinite wisdom, the infinite number of resources and answers and solutions and ideas that will can move us so much further away from this divisiveness, that the appearance of the divisiveness that we are experiencing right now on the planet. And not just in this country, but all over the planet. I was talking with someone the other day about this, and we got into a pretty windy rabbit hole discussion about it. And the thought every now and then occurs to me that if we think about it, we are little bitty little things of energy sitting on a great big marble hurtling through space. I mean, yes, we have an orbit. Yes, we are fairly steady. But if you think about the expansiveness of the cosmos, it's pretty humbling to recognize how much energy is contained in the 8 billion or so people that live on this planet, the 8 billion expressions of God that live on this planet, and how we interact and how we get along with one another, thinking that our little piece of land is the most important one on the planet. And if we're feeling particularly lackful, we have in our idea that taking somebody else's piece of land will make us feel better, will make us feel more powerful and more connected to the land. And it goes all across the scale. It's not just land, of course, it's money, it's food, it's the things that are basic needs. Of course, we want to have met, we need to have met in order to survive on the planet. But the maladaptive place of the fear that there is this other and we must have it in order to be better or worthy or whatever, all of it is polluting that stream of the free-flowing love and energy and support and supply that is always available to us in that well, in that deep, deep wellspring that we call God or Spirit, or the great power, or the higher power, or whatever name we give it. So how do we get back out of this thing that we're in right now? We get there through meditation. We get there through stilling to the best of our abilities our minds, practicing stilling our minds. We have this beautiful mental faculty called imagination. And we also have this other resource called choice or free will. When we know that we have a choice, that's the thing that I know that I forget most often, because my conditioning, my lifelong conditioning said I didn't. This is the way things are. This is the way they work. This is the way you do things. And if you do all of these things, you'll be loved and accepted, and you can progress in the world. But we know that we were not designed that way. We know that spirit created each one of us individually to do its expression in unique and marvelous ways. We weren't supposed to be AI bots. We are here with all kinds of things and experiences, and all of that is a part of what makes us up, is who we are. And so when we get that divine urge, that flow that moves through this, that thing called intuition that says, maybe there's something else here. What if there's something else here? We have another mental capacity called curiosity, where we can explore. So, well, what if? What if this isn't the only way it's supposed to be? What if there are infinite numbers of ways that we can solve this problem or bring peace to the planet or bring peace to ourselves? It's knowing that we have choice. That's a big breakthrough for a lot of people. I'll share a story with you a number of years ago, probably close to, 25 or 30 years ago. Not knowing that I had choice. This is going to sound silly, but I was standing in the grocery store trying to decide between two different mustards. One was, I think, 7 or 10 cents more than the other one. I wanted the more expensive one because I liked the flavor of it. But I honestly stood there for way too long saying, do I get this one or do I get that one? And I told somebody about it. I told a friend about it, and they looked at me like I had two heads. And she looked at me, she said, why didn't you just get the one you wanted? I didn't know I had a choice. I'm totally serious about that. I did not know that I had a choice. My thinking was I had to get the one that was most economical, most practical, had nothing to do with whether I liked it or not. I was operating out of some very old conditioning around that. So something as simple as mustard, sure. Yeah. There's a story about a couple of mustard seeds, the tiny little seeds, and they were lying on fertile ground. And one seed said, I am so looking forward to growing roots and being in the deep earth and being solid, and then having my stalks come up in the fresh green part of my plant, and then growing towards the sun and feeling the rain and feeling the wind and becoming a plant that benefits others, and that I make more of me, more seeds to carry on the line. And the other seed said, I am not at all interested in that. Not at all. The dark earth scares me. That's dark in there. I don't know what's down there. I don't know what's going to happen. And the wind, you talked about the wind, and the wind, oh my gosh, I don't want to be tall where I could get knocked over and blown away, or I could get washed away by a flood. I don't want to do that. I think I'll just sit here and wait. And in that, the first seed grew roots. And while the first seed was growing roots and being strong and doing what its purpose was to become a mustard plant, along came a bird and picked up the other seed and carried it away. So we can be in the flow of what our purpose is, or we can be in resistance to it. Our conditioning can be changed. The way that we learn things by repetition, by being told certain things, by repeating stories about ourselves that are not true, just continue to build and build and build and build until we say, well, who am I and how did I get here? And what am I supposed to be doing? And do I accept that this is the way it's always supposed to be? We know in this teaching, it's not. When we feel that urge, yes, there's going to be a little resistance because it's new. There's a new idea coming in. There's a new thought coming in. It says, well, this feels exciting. And it feels like there's possibility. And it feels like things can open up if I take this step. But oh my gosh, if I take this step, what happens? We don't know. But we don't know until we try. And so our work, our emotions, our thoughts that are energy, the capability that we have to stop and take a breath and get curious. In this teaching in New Thought especially, we have this beautiful tool called visioning, where we go in and we listen and we ask some powerful questions. And we open ourselves to hearing what Spirit has for us, because it's really standing there waiting, just like a never-ending deep well, standing there waiting, saying, I'm ready to give this to you. You just have to get out of your own way. Let go of the resistance. Let go of the grip. You can't receive if your hand is in a fist or gripped and you're hanging on for dear life. Open the hand. Open the heart. And the beauty of that I love so much about the practice of visioning is that it opens us to that reciprocal flowing relationship that we have with Spirit. Meaning we have the ability to create the form that Spirit will fill in. But we have to open to the urge first, because it wants to express through us. So if we think of it like this beautiful dance, this beautiful conversation, it's wonderful. There is no, you must do this. There is no force. There is no force coming from Spirit that says, you must do this. It is an invitation. It is an invitation to say, I am willing, I am ready to express through you. Are you willing to let me do that? And when you hear me say me, as in Spirit, you know I'm not talking about an anthropomorphic being outside of us. It is the energy that we are in flow with constantly. And we also have this beautiful faculty called imagination. If we can dream, anything is possible. If we can take that first seed that anything is possible and then say, well, what if, what if, what if? What if? Wouldn't that be cool? And then we open up that place where we're not in fear anymore. We're in a flow of, wow, wouldn't that be cool? And then we allow Spirit to do what it does once we give it a form. Whether it's a relationship or a job or a place we want to travel, something we want to create in the world, a relationship that we want to heal. Spirit knows how to do it. And we just have to be in the flow and in a receptive mode to say, well, that's cool. I didn't think of that before. I hadn't thought of that before. We're always one thought away. One thought away from being in the flow or out of the flow. It's really that simple, and it's really that challenging to practice day in and day out, is it not? Yeah. So I invite you to be in the flow, to make a willing shift, to be willing to shift throughout your day, to just take a breath and say, where are my thoughts right now? Where have I stepped out of that river that is just going to keep flowing whether I'm in it or not? Where am I in that? If I know that I'm in the flow of good at all times, my energy, I put that energy out to the flow, to Spirit, to say, okay, I believe this. I'm in it. If I pull back at any time and say, well, maybe it only works some of the time, maybe not ever, maybe it doesn't work for me, I shut off that flow. And it is that simple statement that it is done to us as we believe. So we can choose what we believe. We can choose knowing that the law is going to work, the river's going to flow, whether we agree with it or not. So why wouldn't we agree with it? It's my invitation to you. Agree with it. Be in it. Be willing. Thanks for being here today with the Austin Center. And let's take this into a prayer. into a treatment. What I know is that that flow of God, absolutely present, absolutely around us, in us, through us, as everything, as the rocks, as the air, as the trees, the sun, the cosmos. That saying, there is no spot where God is not, is so very, very true. And what I know and I affirm for everyone in this service today, everyone providing service today, everyone listening at a later date, is that there is magic, there is mystery, there are miracles when we stop and take a breath and recognize that taking a breath in itself is a miracle. That we are able to, that we are conscious that we are able to. And it is the simplest form of prayer we can engage with. Taking a breath, turning our thought toward the infinite resource, the infinite source that God is. And so what I know for each one of us, as I know for myself, is I'm grateful to know that. I'm grateful that I have the capacity, I have choice, I have free will to turn towards that which is always supporting me, supporting us, waiting to hand us everything. It already exists. It is there for the taking. And all we have to do is say yes. Just like the law that always says yes, that neutral, immutable law that only says yes to the form that we give it, powered by the emotion behind it, on a foundation of the belief behind it. I know that this is good, and I am so grateful to know this good. I am so grateful to know that we have been endowed with such incredible capacities, imagination and visioning and wonder, a sense of wonder, mystery, and all these things that bring joy. We don't have to figure it all out. I know this to be so. God has already done that for us. And so tapping into that joy, that wonder, that mystery, that magic, these miracles, I simply allow these words to go into that law and know that it is so, and know it is done. It is done and it is so. And we simply affirm by saying, and so it is.